Hi, folks. Welcome to the Moving On podcast. I'm Jay Norman. This is my wife.
Hi, I'm Jess Norman. Babe, you sure you remember how to do this?
Oh, I bet we'll figure it out.
You want to start off by telling them our brand new name?
I'd love to. We want to welcome y'all to the brand new Moving On Again podcast.
And on with the show.
Hi, babe.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm doing okay. The real question is, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's been a long day.
You're not feeling good, huh?
Well, our kids have all been sick, and I think we're just passing it around in a big old circle.
We sure are.
Yeah, we had one miss school today and one that probably should have missed the last 2 days, but he went anyway.
Yeah, and then Cash kind of started it. He came home from field day on Friday with laryngitis, and I thought that was it, but it wasn't.
Yeah, it's going around for sure.
Yeah.
We've had one of our guys been out sick the last few days too,
Yeah.
so it's definitely going around.
Right.
So, babe, what have you been up to today?
Today, I went on a walk with the dogs, and then I went over to the house, and we're renovating a house, and they delivered a dumpster, and so the kids and their dad came over, and we all cleared out a lot of the ductwork that had been torn out, and sheetrock, and wood, and things like that. We got the dumpster kind of full, fourth of the way.
And so that's your latest project?
Yes, we're having a really good time.
What do you think about it?
I like it. First time I saw it, I was like, what have you gotten us into? Because Jay obviously picked it. And he always finds himself in these situations. And it just was this big, ugly house. But the more I've gone over there, the more charming it's become.
Growing on you a little.
It's mine now, you know.
And I don't remember if we talked about it or not, but who are you flipping this house with?
I'm flipping it with the kid's dad.
I see.
Yeah. And anytime Jay and I have gone over there, we kind of get a little annoyed with each other because I kind of want to make the decisions, and he's very used to being the one that makes the decisions to where he doesn't even notice he's doing it. And so it's been really nice to not have to battle each other on that. And then Dusty and I just work really well together, and we don't have any skin in the game except our kids. And that's fine, you know.
Yeah.
So he told me that.
I annoyed you over there.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you really did. You know, he told me the other day he was glad we were divorced. He said it makes it much easier. And he's right. I mean, we are like a well-oiled machine. We were never like that when we were married. So
That's crazy.
isn't it wild?
It really is.
Yeah. Who'd have thunk it, huh?
Yeah. Good for the kids, though.
Yeah. So Jay keeps finding other houses. He's like, we're going to keep on doing this. We love it. Jay loves when I have something, you know, a purpose. It kind of takes my mind off my mind, and that's good for our marriage.
Yep. Keep her hopping and having to make all these extra decisions on top of her everyday life.
Yes.
Sure. So, baby, you've been working on this house, but you also had another thing happen to you this week that was very upsetting.
Very upsetting. Because I've flipped the house, I've been looking for a lot of, we're in the market for a lot of things, you know, fixtures and furniture and different things, appliances. And I got online, and a friend of mine had posted all of these things that she had for sale, and she tagged about 90 people in our little town. I knew all of them. And then when I went to her page, we shared a bunch of friends. We had like 54 mutual friends, so I really trusted it. And so I started messaging her and told her what I wanted, and we negotiated and came to a price. And I bought her patio furniture, and I bought her dog kennel. It's like a 10 by 10 dog kennel. Our dogs hunt in the night, and it can be a problem. And so we probably should find a better way for them in the evenings. Anywho, I send the Venmo, and I quickly realized by how aggressive the messaging becomes that something's off. And my friend had been hacked, and I got had out of a lot of money, and it was really upsetting. I'm like the most skeptical person, you know. I'm from Baton Rouge, a pretty thug. And I am always, if someone calls and says like, what's your, if they call me and they say like, what's your name or what's your phone number? I'm like, you called me, like I'm always very skeptical of anything like that. And speaking of, you had the same kind of situation, but you didn't get bamboozled. You almost did because it was really, really bothering you. You'll have to tell them.
Yeah. So I had a company calling saying that I owed a bill to a local hospital here that does have an ER that we had taken one of the kids to, I think for some stitches or something back in the summer, but I had paid it. We hadn't received any bills showing any balance, and this company just kept calling saying, hey, you owe, I think it was $1,600, and they were giving it for a different kid. And I said, kind of the same deal like you said, they would call and ask what my address was, and I was like, you're calling me, you tell me, what do you
You should have it right in front of you.
Yeah, what are you looking for? And so I asked them, you just send me documentation of that bill. Here's my email it to me. 5 times, nothing. Tried to call the hospital several times, couldn't get through. So finally they called the other morning and tells me what I owe. And I said, look, if you'll send me an email proving what I owe, what kid it was for, then I'll pay you. And guy immediately hangs up. So I call the hospital, finally get this lady on to help. Worked through it, owed $220 for something that was late, but I don't know. We never had received a bill for it that I know of. But anyway, same deal. They were just scamming some way had gotten, somewhere it had shown up that there was a balance, so they were trying to get more money out of it.
Yeah, thousands.
Yep.
And that's really where you figured it out is you said, I've given my email, send me an email with the, the breakdown, and the person hung up.
Yep.
And so that was Jay. In months, these people have called for months. And
this has gone on for a while for sure.
That was his first clue that this was a scam. I'm so glad that person hung up before they got you.
Well, I wasn't going to send them anything, but I was ready to track it down because I didn't want it to go to collection or something. And that's what they originally were telling me. But, we just received nothing, no documentation of it.
I'm proud of you, and I'm not very proud of me.
Well, it happens, and we're just going to live through it and roll on.
Yeah. Gosh, it was awful. I just was so disappointed in myself and got pretty emotional, and that kicked me into an anxiety attack, and I hadn't had one. I was on a roll.
Yeah.
I used to have, 2 or 3 a month, and I hadn't had one since August. And when it started, I was like, dadgummit, I was on set. I was holding such a record on these.
It's a shame that people do that and they don't know what they're what they're doing to people's lives. You know how deep it goes.
I thought that also, honey, but then I realized I don't think they care.
No, they don't at all.
Yeah, because when I figured out it wasn't my friend, I started texting them like it was. I was like, you know what? I realized we just can't spend this money anymore. Can you refund my Venmo? And the person was like, the hacker was like, why can't you spend it right now? And I said, we just really need an oven. I'm so embarrassed to even ask you to refund it. And I was using her name, that he was posing as. And I just tried anything I could for them to just send it back, like they were gonna.
Yeah.
I was in denial.
Well, something on them, maybe not a little funnier, but it's not funny really to us. But we do have 2 ovens, but we are 0 for 2.
We're 0 for 2. I had a repairman come out this week and charge me $200 to tell me that our broken ovens are indeed broken. So
and we still have no ovens ordered, and we have 5 kids, so you can see how that's going.
We're eating takeout.
We're not doing great at all.
No. Mm-mm.
So, baby, the last podcast we had, Matt and Paige, and it was a blast. And
oh my gosh,
took me a few days to get it listened to because we were busy,
really?
But really enjoyed that podcast. And
me too.
What a great message it was.
Oh my gosh, I always tell you guys that we always want our show to be God-breathed, and so we really do pray about who we want to have on the show. We don't want it to just be who we like or who we're good friends with or, who's who we've been communicating with a little bit more lately than normal. We want it to be who God really lays on our hearts, because we want there to be intention with our show. And when he revealed to us that Matt and Paige were up next, I knew it would be good. I've known I've known them both, but I've known Matt for like 8-9 years. I knew it would be good. I knew he had a story, but I just had this narrow view of how good it would be. And once again, our charming God just blew the pants off of it. Like, it just was so good. I feel like every show we've had has become my favorite show. So funny, but I'm kind of easy like that.
Well, it was just really impressive, how far they've come and what all they've been through and the stages that it's been to be as much as they're giving back now. Not just on their podcast, but Matt going to speak to different groups and things. Stuff I really didn't even realize how much of that they were doing.
Oh, me neither. And just the I knew the similarities between their passion and our passion, but to sit in the same space and swap notes was really neat. And I never really knew that they would call themselves atheists. I don't know if you guys can go back and listen to their show if you haven't heard it yet, but it's important. It's an important show. And they openly and with so much transparency call themselves atheists.
Agnostic and atheist.
Atheist and agnostic until they hit their low point, and that's where they found
I thought it was really amazing too that for them to say that and then to realize and speaking to them that they were on two different paths, and one found Christianity and one didn't. I mean, has now, but at the time hadn't. I just thought that was really neat how that played out. And I don't think they really realized necessarily with each other where they were at in their journey either, 100%.
I don't think so either. Two things. I think there's so many people listening right now that feel defeated and feel on a different path as their spouse. And I want you to go back and listen to that show. It's just so beautiful. I know there probably was some time where the one of them that had come to the Lord first maybe was a little distraught about the other, and that they couldn't share that closeness, and maybe they didn't feel as close because they didn't both have that relationship. And then for where they are now. And two, there are so many things that you say into the mic. We've told this before, that it's my first time hearing you say it.
Yeah.
And you think, why? Aren't you married? Like, don't you talk? Yeah, we talk, but there's just so many things that come up on here that wouldn't normally, or maybe the Lord is here in this space, and so he's helping us to have a little bit more bravery than we do,
Well, and I think too, when we're on here, we don't have the distraction of everything else going around. It's the TV on, the kids in and out. We kind of block all that out, and it's and we're pretty well connected. And it's just like the other night when the power was out, and we laid on the bed and talked for an hour and a half, just uninterrupted.
It was nice.
Because there was basically no phone and sure wasn't any TV and no lights at all, just pitch dark.
So, it was really nice.
Yeah, it was.
But what I was relating that to was when Paige was sharing her spiritual journey, Matt first, he's obsessed with her anyways. I mean, he just loves her. He loves her like somebody should be loved. And it was so beautiful to see, but he was in awe of her and amazed by her. And you'll hear on the show where he's like, that's my wife speaking. And it was so fun for him to hear it said out loud, because maybe she hadn't said the exact words to him or just in that fashion, or maybe he just was having a fun time hearing it again. It was really neat.
Yeah, it was really, to me, it was really interesting, and it's probably one that I would, go back and listen to again, because I feel like even though I heard it all and I participated in it, there's just other things there that I think I could go back and still learn from it for sure.
Me too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I thought too that it was interesting that Matt and his world overlap with our world.
Yeah.
And, we had a circumstance where our two worlds kind of collided out of that podcast. That was really a great thing, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, baby, as we move forward, and you started with a new therapist this week, kind of had
Yes.
a new situation, and she was talking to you about our arguments and whether they're a good or bad thing.
Yeah. There's been some newer developments that I may want to discuss later on in this show, that have led me to maybe seek out a little bit more specific type of counselor. My friend Jen, y'all know that we share the stage every February, Heart of the Bison, Jen Stutzman. She referred me to one of her counselors. I had gone and done some testing last summer for, just kind of trying to find some answers to why my brain seems to operate differently from anyone I've really come into contact with. And so I was trying to get some answers last summer. She was asking me why had I gone and done that originally. And I had told her that you and I are in this cycle where we get in an argument once a month, and no matter what we do, no matter what we try, no matter how much we try not to argue with each other, it's once a month we go into this just awful, we lose ourselves, and I just told her we don't want to fight, we don't want to do it anymore. And she said, why does it necessarily have to be a bad thing? And I just was like, oh my gosh, I've never ever thought about it. But it was really nice to hear her say that, because, babe, obviously we're not beating it. So if we can just retitle it to something really great, like how nice would that be, you know? I know it's like rose-colored glasses, but it's just so funny. The perspective just changes everything. And she said, don't get me wrong. Like if you're arguing and you're creating distance between yourselves and your souls and you're getting further and further apart, that's one thing. But if your arguments are creating intimacy in your marriage, why would that be bad? And that's what you and I always say is, we even shared very vulnerably, or I did, our fight last show about the airport and the flights and stuff. And I just don't ever want anyone to see like our happy, outfits and stuff and our travel and stuff on Instagram and think that we have like this perfect thing going when we just absolutely don't.
No.
At all. Like I don't want to perpetuate that at all. And so I always want to be really open. But what is very, very clear is that we have a really ugly few days, but we always get somewhere that we've never gotten before. No. And we always learn something that we would have never. And so then we were like, well, does the pressure create diamonds? Like, is that what we're walking through? And we're taught that, if you're unhappy, you should get divorced, or if you're unhappy, if you're having fights, you should get counseling. And it's like, well, we've never been told to appreciate them.
Well, we've had counseling and hadn't necessarily fixed it either. So.
No. And, we're taught that the struggles in our lives are to create growth and stretch, but we've never been taught that struggles in our marriage can be considered good.
Yeah.
Anyways, you guys, we're going with it. We're going with it, and
she set you right in a different seat, didn't she?
She really did.
Yeah.
It, even if everything else was for nothing, which it wasn't, I really am interested in what she's doing. And when I find out more about it, you guys, I'll be more clear with you guys. But I just am pretty uneducated on exactly. She's using muscle tension and vibrations, and then I want to learn more before I pass it on to y'all.
Yeah, for sure, a different approach, but I mean that's what you're after, is looking for a different resource
to where I can continue with my current therapist also, and just hit it from a few different angles.
Well, I do want to point out a good thing out of your testing now this summer too is that I always say in our fights and even on here that I'm not necessarily smart enough to keep up with you in an argument, and we found out the reason for that,
What is it?
that you're basically a genius.
Honey.
That's what they said.
Nay.
She tested basically off the charts when it came to intellect.
You
So
don't have final editing.
y'all can see
I will edit
that
this
I
part
will
out.
never win an argument.
Babe, I'll edit that part out. Thanks. That's really sweet of you.
Yeah. Well, it's a true story.
I'm so uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You're
Keep
smiling.
going.
You're smiling big.
I know. It's really sweet of you to say, but how uncomfortable.
Well, I'm just saying that's a good thing that came out of it.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that.
Well, and so moving forward on our podcast, we've done, I guess, the last 3. We've had a lot of guests and done things a little bit different. Maybe the last 3 out of 4, something like that. I've kind of lost track a little on
Right?
the total on that since we started back. But I'm bringing this up to say is we've talked a little bit about the connection with people
Yeah.
and what we had
Yeah.
when we started and even last year versus where we're at now.
Right. I was just mentioning to Jay that I've lost a good bit of our community in our break. And the numbers are back. The numbers are exactly the way they were when we were recording last year. But last year I was getting 5, 6, 7 messages a day from folks that were going through this or needing advice for that, and I've just kind of lost that, and I don't know if maybe my social media is down because I've kind of poured more into our podcast than I've put into our social media. I'm trying to get off my phone a little bit more, but what I'm leading up to is I think there's a point where, like my favorite podcast is Armchair Expert. And there's so many things that I would give $1 million to just text Dax or text Monica and just be like, hey, when you said this, I spit my coffee. I was laughing so hard. But there's an absolute wall. I know my message will never get to them.
Yeah.
No matter what, my message is never going to get to them. And I think that's how we are with so many people. Well, as we walked through pandemic and quarantine and all of us started growing our social medias, I realized if I texted Meredith, this farm wife, she would text right back. Or if I texted Zach with Millennial Farmer, he would text right back. If I texted Trevor with Bell's Hay, he would text right back. And my first question would be like, how are you seeing this? Like, how are you seeing my message? You have 100,000 followers. Like, how in the world? And I quickly realized that it's not really what we think. It's not what we're assuming. We don't think that we can communicate with each other past a certain point, and that's just not how it is. And I know we don't have the following that they have, but sometimes I feel like since we've been doing this for 6 years, y'all maybe think that we're too busy to speak or too busy to chat or message. And I don't, that's just not the case.
Yeah.
I think, one of our very first back, I remember you saying, like, you can't stop smiling. And I just was like, I've missed our community so badly. And if there are any of you that are listening and going, I've been wanting to message you, but I just thought I would bother you, or I didn't think it would get through. It will, and you won't. You won't bother me. I'm waiting for you because, that's just such a huge part of my heart is to connect with you, and I'm really, really missing the connection.
Yeah, that's been a main deal for you all the way through.
Yeah.
Is being able to, and it spurred a lot of conversation between us, and
Yeah.
it's helped us.
It helps us to know
Yeah.
which direction to go with our show.
Well, and then even with just, I meant more like
Yeah.
with each other. I mean,
Yeah.
stuff that, it's things we faced that maybe it brought up something we had to go
Right.
back and revisit and say,
Right.
maybe we didn't get that right the first time,
Oh,
type
for
deal.
sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But I can really notice the drop off in the communication. And maybe it is because we're in a season where that's not supposed to be happening. But if it is, and there's just a little apprehension on any of y'all's parts, I want to reassure you and encourage you to just reach out, because I'm here and I'm excited to connect with you and grow relationships with all of you. We hope to do like a live show in the next year or so, and we're ready to reconnect with each of you.
Well, and I think too, even going back to Matt and Paige, if it's somebody that's suffering, through some of the things that Matt specifically, went through, for us to help you get hooked up with somebody like that. If, somebody's struggling with that, I think it'd be a great resource.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was trying to get a message from Matt and Paige on updates to they were mentioning in their show that they were creating a Facebook community, which we probably should do that. Facebook makes it so easy for you to all be in one space. And I think we even created one at one time, but maybe that's something that we can revisit. And Matt and Paige, I haven't gotten a message back from them. They were supposed to go live with it last week, their Facebook community. But if y'all keep just visiting their website and their Instagram, it's that Tufo couple. It's twfo.com, and it stands, if you want to remember, it stands for Till the Wheels Fall Off. That's what they've always said about their relationship.
Yeah, great show.
Ride or die.
And that's it.
Yeah.
So you got a little giveaway going on this week?
Yes. So after the scam, I was just so devastated. I told Jay, I'm going to sell everything in our house. he has taught me some is at zero. And so, which means if you lose 600, you gotta make it up somewhere. And then once it's at zero, you're good, you're clean. And so I'm already thinking like, okay, I'll skip nails. That'll be 70. I'll skip my lashes. That'll be 80. I'll skip this. And I mean, I'm eating it everywhere I can, trying to figure out how to do it, canceling appointments and deciding what I'm going to sell in the house. And I woke up this morning and I just felt like God was like, just, if they're going to take that, give more. And it was really clear. And I've been working with as soon as I canceled our online store, because we thought we were going to stop recording, my shop blew up the very next day. And so I've been really working on doing it right and getting a better online format for our farm store. And I had wanted to do a giveaway for all of the new merch that we had gotten in. So as soon as this happened, it really spurred me to be like, I think there's not a better time than this. So it's on our Instagram. We try to keep it really simple and just tag in for the next week. This show will come out on Wednesday, what's today?
11th, I think.
This show will come out on Wednesday the 12th, and I'm going to draw a name on the 18th. So you have 6 days to go to our Instagram and join into our giveaway. I'm giving away one of our brand new crew necks, one of our brand new logo tees, one of our wine tumblers, and all 3 of our decals. So it's about $100 giveaway, and I'm really excited.
Sounds like fun. I didn't know what all it was. I hadn't.
You have to
seen
see
it.
the.
Yeah.
You have to see the pictures.
Yeah, I haven't got on there today, so I didn't know.
Yeah.
Well, babe, before we end, I want to say that I am proud of you for all the avenues that you're researching and doing to work on your mental health.
Thank you.
My mental health and our mental health.
How I work on your mental health.
Yeah. And
negatively? Or
no, I'm just saying
joking.
with what we're learning. And,
I'm joking to, what is it, deflect?
Mm-hmm. I can see you deflecting.
Sure.
It's very clear. Anyway, I just wanted to say, thank you. And then I'm proud of you for what you've done there. And we just keep moving forward. And, from my standpoint too, just to say that, we are doing this to help each other, but also to help others.
Right.
And so we do want that out there for sure.
Thank you for saying that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think it's time. I wrote on his notes what I wanted to talk about at the very end, and I put a question mark. He said, "What does that mean?" And I said, "I don't. It just means I don't know if we'll talk about it tonight or push it off further." And anyway, so I guess it feels time.
Okay.
If you think.
Up to you.
Okay. So when we lost Hadley in July, and that was it was like the third week of July, wasn't it?
Yep.
It was one of the most, oh gosh, I don't even think there is a word in the English dictionary for what that week was in our lives. And smack dab in the middle of that week, some testing that I had done a few weeks prior, the results came back. And I was saying earlier, my mind operates very different than anyone. I really know pretty much the inner workings of Jay's mind and the inner workings of Cam's mind, and it just doesn't resemble mine. And I wasn't comparing it negatively. I just didn't see similarities. There's a lot of times where, because Cam and Jay are very similar, and so there's a lot of times where I feel like they're speaking English and I'm speaking Spanish, and I'm trying to express an emotion to them, and they're receiving the opposite emotion. And so for many years, I had really struggled with, struggled with my mental health, and, I was consuming everything I could, podcasts and books and Netflix specials, and listening on Audible, different self-help books, and talking to my sister, talking to my counselor, talking to Jay, and you guys have been here along for the ride, and I'm almost positive you guys can already say what I'm gonna say. But my therapist had gotten sent by something I said, and he said, "Jess, what about borderline personality?" And I was like, no, because there's such a stigma.
Sure.
And I was like, that can't be me. There's no way. And so we went through all of it, and he tried to teach me about the different things, the different indicators. And I think you had to have 5 of 7. And he himself was like, you don't have these. And I just was like, correction, I have all of those. And he's like, if you do, Jess, then you haven't been telling me. You haven't been telling me a lot. What haven't you been telling me? And I said, I haven't been telling you anything, because I was just holding a lot. I was holding a lot back, because you don't want to let your freak flag fly.
Yeah.
There's just a lot. There's a lot that I know how to do to mask, or I can be exactly who you need me to be.
Yeah.
And I've had years of practice of being exactly who you need me to be, if I have enough capacity. And so anyways, that's what spurred me to go sit with a psychologist, and we did an entire day of testing, and I really, really, really resonate, still do, with the ADHD community. Anything I consume about ADHD. Did I say ADHD the first time?
You said some variation.
Did I? I said it differently, didn't
you did,
I?
yeah.
Because when I said it right, I was like,
Yeah.
So anyways, I really of course, even all the funny TikToks, my sister and I'll send them to each other. And I'm like, that isn't me. Like, I'm the most ADHD person you've ever met in your life. And anyway, so I went and sat with him, and it was a lot of memory tests and intelligence testing, and questions, and draw this draw this picture from memory. Now draw it again. Now draw it again. And we just had a blast. Because, I was saying earlier, I love that kind of stuff. Like, I'm so interested and never been on that side of things. And so anyways, cut to a few weeks later, we've lost Hadley. We are in a absolute fog. We're floating through a fog. And this man that I've come to trust calls and tells me that I actually have bipolar 2. And not 2 as well, but there's a bipolar 1 and there's a bipolar 2. And I'm learning a lot more about it. But so I actually suffer with bipolar 2, and it is accompanied by depression and anxiety. And what was really interesting about that is I really just thought I suffered from anxiety. And when you suffer from bipolar 2, the medicine that you get on with anxiety is not necessarily the most wonderful thing to get on when you also have bipolar. So it allowed us to go in a different direction medicinally, and that was a godsend, because if I would have skipped that step, I don't know if we would be sitting here. We'd be in an entirely different season of our marriage. So I alluded, sorry I'm talking so much.
That's all right.
I alluded a minute ago that I'd had anxiety attacks a few times a month, and hadn't had them since August, and that's because I was able to get on some medicine at the very end of July, and that's with the medicine went my anxiety attacks. And if just for that, I'm just so thankful. I hate them. Y'all know how much I hate them. And
well, they look painful too.
They're awful.
Yeah.
Just an absolute loss of control. I had one last night, and I was so mad. I was so mad at that hacker. He ruined my record, and now I'm, and self-explanatory. But anyways, all week, I just feel like God's been going, you're up. And I'm like, I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm ready. And he's like, you're up. And I'm like, yeah, I've got some good thoughts. And he's like, all right, get in there. And I'm like, And I'm not getting in there. I haven't been ready. And it's built in. It's a built-in fear of what will people think, or what will our friends think? What will your family think? What will my family think? Are we telling people in the right order? What is the right order? And really, my inner circle knows and has known since August. And at this point, it's more that I'm not a different person after the diagnosis. I've always been who I am.
Yeah.
Now, having help from the medication to take off those highs and those lows that are a little bit aggressive. And that's been really nice. But what ultimately is left is we're all given this story to tell, and we can choose to tell it or not. And I took a long time refusing to tell it because of the fear. And if I'm here on this mic telling or pretty much begging all of you not to fear, or not to fear what everybody thinks, and not to think that someone is better than you because of this. And I myself am not telling you something major about myself because I'm scared of what you're going to think. That's not good for me.
Yeah.
And I'm not even talking about imposter syndrome. I'm talking about me. Like this is something that I had to get to a space where I could share, and I had to prove to myself that it doesn't matter, because ultimately I just got an answer about our lineage, our family. And we talk about breaking generational curses, and I didn't invent bipolar. It may have came from 10 generations back. We just never know. And if we're not careful, or if we can't get creative in our healing and in our therapy and in our growth, we'll pass it 10 more generations. And so that's just the path that we're on now. And I want to go back and make sure that everyone knows that I was never negatively speaking of BPD. It is just such a close resemblance to bipolar. And so that's why we went down that path first. And I had mistaken BPD with multiple personality. And that's why I was just like, I don't think I have multiple personalities in that sense, that disorder. It didn't sound like me.
No.
I didn't know anything about borderline. I still don't know very much about bipolar, and that's why I've really wanted to seek out this new therapist, is really to learn really more about the disorder itself, because I'm really interested in it now. Now I'm studying myself.
Yeah, you're going to dig deep.
Yeah. But what's really, my sister was asking me, what's the hardest part of it? And I said, remembering I have it. I'll get so hard on myself when I'm not firing on all cylinders. And then I'll realize this is not you, honey. Like this, I have to be really kind to myself and say, you're not weak. You're not making bad decisions. You're not sitting this one out. This is your bipolar. Like, you have to remember that these things are the natural ebb and flow of your life, and you have to learn, that this is happening, so now we have to go this direction. And also how to communicate that to you, because sometimes, and Kimber said, what does that look like? And I said, sometimes I just have to scream, I have bipolar, be nice to me, because you sometimes don't take anything off me. You expect me to operate at 100% at all times sometimes, because we're in a pretty heightened argument or situation. And so sometimes I do have to remind you, like, look, I need a little bit more slack because I'm still figuring this out.
Yeah. Well, and for me, that's what I'm trying to recognize, whether it's something to do with that piece of it, or if you're just truly just that mad at me for something, and I don't. That's sometimes hard to distinguish between.
Yeah, he said you can't see the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
We had mentioned it on the show with Matt and Paige, and this is what we were alluding to, but I wasn't really ready to talk, of course, yet. But I was saying, with my bipolar, the things that I'm doing to scream for help, like I'm drowning, I need you, I need a life raft, I need you to save me, are the things that come to Jay as, get out of here now. Like, get away from me. I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear you. So there's an absolute misfire, like miscommunication. The translation is not, but we've pinpointed it. we know, we haven't figured that out.
Well, and it at least gives me the opportunity to look at it and say, to think that there's something else to it, where before that it was for sure a retreat, where now, I'm going to try to look at it before I retreat, and I'm, trying to get further down the line that way.
I hope, but I really just don't even expect you to know how to do that, because I can't imagine. It's such a reflex.
Yeah.
It's going to take.
Yeah.
It's going to take our God to figure it out.
Well, I'm just saying that now at least that comes into my head versus, never even considering it before.
Yeah, but I don't think a farmer at 53 can even say the past few sentences you just said. So I think that's a huge, I think every farm wife is like, come in here and listen to this, and rewinding it.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big deal, babe. I really do appreciate it. And I really appreciate you, loving me as much as you do and liking me as much as you do. We've told you guys that our song is Fire Away, and it's so apropos.
That's on you.
It's so appropriate. use the words that cut like a razor. And that's our relationship.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I always say she can whittle you up pretty good.
I just want to tell you thank you for making me feel strong enough and stable enough and comfortable enough to know that you know every in and out of me.
Yeah.
You know, like you've been behind the curtain and you know exactly what's going on, and you just seem to be more in love with me every single day. You seem with it.
I'm trying.
But it just is so nice to have the most open and safe and honest and transparent relationship with you and be able to, I mean, I think that's why I really did finally figure it out or have the strength or courage to figure it out, because of the love that you provide me and the stability that you provide me. I have a huge fear of abandonment. That's one of the symptoms of it. And you know, that's why our fights get so bad, is you change that look and you change your voice. And I'm like, he's gone. I'll always say, this voice is the same voice you'll have when you're signing our divorce papers.
Yeah.
Because the voice you use the rest of the month, that voice would never sign a divorce paper. You're never going anywhere. But once you change that octave, I'm like, okay, well, that one, I think that one, I don't recognize it. No. So maybe it is what he would use to sign a divorce paper. And those are just lies. Those are lies that I believe in that moment. And that's what gets really scary. But to know that I can be brave enough, because, you know, when I told Cam, she said that doesn't change anything about us. It doesn't change anything about the way I feel about you.
Yeah.
You know, she was like, how do you feel? And then with you, you were like, babe, you know I'm not going anywhere, right? And I was like, I know. But of course, a little nervous. And and so anyways, I feel like you giving me the strength and the stability and the courage is what is going to allow me to kind of get into this community with people that I need to be in community with. And so I really appreciate that. And I hope this goes well.
I know it will. You made a lot of headway, and we've made a lot of headway, and
yeah.
I think we just have to keep that song on loop in our head when we are in a fight or in a situation, something going on.
Oh, you just really get on my nerves.
Feelings mutual.
I'm just playing.
I know. Well, I love you a bunch, and I am proud of you, and we'll just keep working. That's what we signed up for.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I just want to go back to I had to get to a spot where I realized that no one on this earth is better than anyone else. And I came to that spot after realizing that I have this bipolar. And so I just feel like if everyone can get there, this world can be just such a better place. And it can make our lives a lot easier to stop looking around and deciding that they're good and I am not. That just has to be done, you guys. Just go to the Lord and ask him if that's true so he can tell you it's just absolutely not.
Yep. Well, and it's everyday work, and it's something we can do together. And
yeah. Constant renewal of your mind. That's one of my favorite verses.
Yep. You're doing good.
Thanks. You too.
What else you got?
That's, I think, enough, huh?
That is enough. And we've got one jumping tomorrow in our district meet. Hopefully go on to area.
Gosh.
So we're pretty excited about that. And be praying for her tonight.
Yeah. Lily, her district meet last year is when everything broke through.
Yep.
There was 15 really scary girls, and all of a sudden there was Lily, and I said, where's everybody else? And he said, babe, she's it. And I just burst out crying. We'd never been in that situation before.
No, so we're pretty excited and looking forward to it.
Yeah, we got in the car and I said, Lily, you won. And she goes, I did? Like, none of us really knew what was going on.
Yep.
Yeah. We might be intelligent, but we can be pretty aloof.
Yeah, for
We're
sure.
in our own
Sometimes.
little happy mind.
Yeah, and this one of those that's hard to wrap your mind around
It
what's going
is.
on.
I really pray the same for tomorrow.
I do too. I'm hoping
Yeah.
we can move on up the scale tomorrow and go on to bigger and better things.
Well, and I also want to tell you thank you for not, I feel like it would be very normal for you to say, babe, that, with the bipolar, I feel like it would be very normal for you to say, babe, that's our business. That is no one's business but ours. And for you to be even more scared of what people would think of you with your wife with this, and for you to feel so badass to know I don't care what y'all think of her, like she's mine, and that just layers it even more. And that wink, thank you, honey.
You're welcome.
Love you.
I love you too. Well, as the song says, the road goes on forever and the party never ends.
I love you again.
I love you
All
again
right.
too.
Bye.